They've taken everyone's best shot all season long, but despite wearing a target on their back for a full calendar year, here we are back in this moment. We are 24 hours from Super Bowl 55, and our Chiefs are heading to Tampa this afternoon with a chance to run it back. Hey, everyone, and welcome into our Super Bowl special presented by Hyper Ice. My name is Matt McMullen, joined by Sean Barber. And we are coming to you live from Union Station, getting you ready for Super Bowl 55. And Sean, you can feel the energy in this place. You can feel the energy in the city. Finally, our chance to run it back.
Oh, always amazing. I always love when the fan base comes down to Union Station. As a guy on air, I love how fans, they want to be a part of the show and realize we're live. They're still asking for autographs and everything while we're doing the show. It's an amazing atmosphere. Everybody's expecting us to come out on fire live. And, man, it's just a team atmosphere, man. I love what our friends are doing.
Yeah, and they should be excited because this kind of moment doesn't happen often. If you think about all the great teams in the history of the NFL, they never got back to a Super Bowl. So only the Chiefs are the 18th team in NFL history to make it back to a Super Bowl after winning it the year prior. And if we win tomorrow, which we certainly hope we do, we'd be the 9th team in NFL history to win consecutive championships. It's very hard to do. So being here is a very, very big deal. So we're going to enjoy this because we should. We have an awesome show here for you today. We'll have interviews with Trent Green, Brian Griese, Tim Grunhard, and Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas, plus Mitch Holthus here in just a few minutes. But we'll be bringing you live shots of the guys boarding the planes to Tampa as well. So should be a lot of fun. Now, there are so many ways to celebrate our Super Bowl appearance here. The Chiefs Pro Shop at Arrowhead Stadium has an awesome selection of AFC Championship and Super Bowl gear for sale. They are open until 7 p.m. tonight. That's at Arrowhead Stadium. If you can't make it out there, check out shop.chiefs.com. Lots of great stuff on there as well. You can also check out your local Kansas City Hy-Vee store. Limited quantities of the Run It backpacks are still available. Get those while you still can. And lastly, come check out Union Station. Lots of cool stuff going on down here. Lots of ways to get excited about Super Bowl 55. Now, Sean, we're obviously here in Kansas City, but we do have a man on the ground in Tampa Bay. Reference to Mitch Holthus. Let's check in with him right now. Mitch, what's up, man? Kansas City High.
Matt, it's so exciting. The fact that you've laid it out perfectly, just the historic moment that the Chiefs are here back in Super Bowl 55 after winning Super Bowl 54. Only the third team in the salary cap era to have the chance to win back-to-back, and the first time in 16 years. So it's truly historic, potentially historic right here.
Now, Mitch, this is live television, I'll be honest. I didn't hear a thing you just said, but I'm assuming you're excited. I'm assuming you're ready to go for this one, pumped up as you always are. And I'm just curious, you've been around this team, obviously, the last 2 weeks more than anybody. In your conversations and your thoughts on this team getting ready for Super Bowl 55, what's the energy like? What's the focus like getting ready for this game?
This team has had incredible energy really since July of 2019. And their focus has been hyper-focus, really since July of 2019. And after winning Super Bowl 54, that focus turned to this year immediately. This is a team that has been incredibly focused, but this year I'm going to add another one. They have been hyper-disciplined in the COVID environment, and we know there was a close call earlier this week, but this team for 7 months has stayed on task because their head coach has asked them to do it, to stay hyper-focused in dealing with the COVID pandemic.
So we're going to come back to Mitch here in a moment. We can't hear you, unfortunately, but we will come back to you here in a second when we get that figured out. While we're waiting for Mitch there, Sean, I'm just curious, your thoughts on this team the last couple of weeks. You've obviously been a guy who's been on the field. You've gotten ready for big games. What do you think the focus is like getting ready for this game?
Man, I think our team is laser focused. I think that we really...
Try it again.
We really took him... do we got him or not?
We have Mitch back.
Got it?
Hold that thought,
Okay.
Sean. We have Mitch coming back here. And Mitch,
Let me
I'll
ask
ask you one more time, just in case we our viewers couldn't hear you. I'm not sure. Just your thoughts on the last 2 weeks getting ready for this game. What's the focus like getting ready for this one?
Let me give you a quick answer to your first question, too. Truly historic. The chance for only the third team in the salary cap era to win back-to-back. You're talking almost 30 years, and the first team to do it in 16 seasons. Now, your question about being focused and on task. This team has been hyper-focused since July of 2019, and it's never shut down. Even after winning Super Bowl 54 and getting those championship rings, this team stayed on task and online. The other thing that they've done this year in 2020 has been they've been very, very disciplined. They've had to be hyper-disciplined with the COVID environment. We had a scare earlier this week. We all know that. But for 7 months, because their head coach has exhorted them to do so, this team has stayed on task in dealing with the COVID pandemic, and it's a big reason why they're going to be playing in this stadium over my shoulder tomorrow.
And Sean, I'm curious, we were talking about Patrick Mahomes a bit earlier off air. Looking into this game, what are you expecting from Patrick Mahomes in this one, Mitch?
Well, I think they've got the whole ship with the cannons blowing off. I think the Chiefs have all the cannons in here because of Mahomes, and Coach is bringing 2 satchels full of plays. It's all hands on deck. I'm hoping and thinking, Sammy Watkins will be cleared to play, but Clyde Edwards-Helaire up and running. We've seen Byron Pringle be a huge factor in this team. Le'Veon Bell will probably be active and ready to go. That means all hands on deck, taking over that pirate ship and using their own cannons against the hometown Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
All right, I'm going to get involved in this. We talk about one Pat Mahomes. We know he's a trendsetter. We know he's the face of the football. Let's talk about really quickly his football IQ. Mitch, his football IQ, talk about how that affects Coach Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy's, how quickly they can be able to adjust to what Tampa Bay is doing on the defense side.
I think it told you everything when Saints coach Sean Payton said it might have been the best interview I've ever seen by a quarterback in the combine, meaning Patrick Mahomes can take a lot of information, process it, and then activate it. We've seen guys in the league that can process it, but they can't translate it to the field. Patrick Mahomes does an excellent job of studying and preparing, but where he is really magical is in those nanoseconds pre-snap and post-snap, where he uses that mind and triggers in all of those algorithms that are in his brain and translates it to the field. That's what makes him truly unique and on the cusp of being listed as maybe the best quarterback ever to play in this game. He wins this game tomorrow here. All of a sudden, it's been the best 4 years of any quarterback in the history of this league, and a lot of it is that brain that the Lord gave him to process things quickly.
It's truly unbelievable what he's been able to accomplish in his first 4 seasons in the league. 17 passing touchdowns in just 7 career playoff games. That's the most passing touchdowns through 7 career playoff games in NFL history. We all know how good he is, but he takes his game to the next level in the postseason. And 2 guys that help him do that are, of course, Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill. Mitch, they combined for more than 500 yards in just 2 playoff games this year. The guys are amazing. And also, earlier this season, back in Week 12, they were so good against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hill, in particular, had that massive first quarter with over 200 receiving yards. What are you expecting from those 2 guys in this one?
Let's start with Kelce. There's nobody in this league that's played the position that's even close to him, and that includes Gronk, and you can give me Jimmy Graham and all those guys. Here's a stat for you. This is one you would like, Matt. It's a next-gen stat. When he's the ISO Y, meaning he is a split in, essentially, away from the trip side, the Chiefs have used him in that position 29% of the time. The next closest tight end in that spot is 16%. So Kelce, when he's singled up, think of what he did to Tre'Davious White in the AFC Championship game. Look what he did to Ward in the divisional playoff. He can run every route, he gets open, and he makes every catch. Plus, Coach asked him to do all the other tight end things. He still has to block. He has to wham block. He's involved in practice at 7-on-7, and he's involved in 9-on-7 run game. He's truly unique. For Hill, Tyreek has worked at his game. I am super proud of him, of what he entered the league as in 2016 as the fastest guy in the league and what he has become. Because he's still the fastest guy, if not one of the fastest guys in the league. He's become a quick twitch route runner. You play him press, he will beat you off the ball. Look what he did to Carlton Davis in the first game. Oh, you're going to play him off. He'll still beat you with those first couple moves, either in cut or a double move to get by you. Tyreek Hill has become, right now, arguably the best speed route runner in the game.
If anybody can put it in words, let's talk about postseason and how big Sammy Watkins is going to be as a factor in this game, because he's not the number 1, not the number 2 option, but even as the 3rd option, he's such a valuable asset to Pat Mahomes and Andy Reid.
2 things here, Shop. 1, Tampa Bay and Todd Bowles plays nickel 63% of the time. He plays dime 1% of the time. What does that mean? He doesn't play a 6 DB. He plays linebackers. He asks his linebackers to be in coverage with 5 DBs. Why is that an answer to your question? Because now Sammy Watkins gets involved in this game, not just catching passes, but he's very good. He and Pringle are outstanding in blocking for those wide receiver screens, the quick pop pass that Next Gen Stats calls it. The Chiefs run 67% shifts in motions. They've had 7 touchdowns off pop passes the last 2 years. Watkins is involved in that because many times if he's not the receiver, he's the guy that's setting up the play to go big off that pop pass. So Sammy Watkins being on the field is more than just something on the stat line. It creates strategic issues for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and advantages for the Chiefs in space in getting those quick plays off.
Sammy's, of course, questionable entering this game, but hopefully he can play because you're right, he changes everything for this offense. And this offense overall, Mitch, even without Sammy, through the first 2 postseason games, has had so much success. Excluding kneel downs through this postseason, on drives Patrick Mahomes has led. He's led 12 of them. The Chiefs have scored 10 times and 7 touchdowns on those 12 drives. Just crazy stuff. What's impressed you overall about this offense the last 2 games?
And Tyreek dropped the 40-yard pass, so that's one of those that he didn't get, right? He's probably going to score on that drive, on the first drive against Buffalo. All right, what's impressed me is the elevation of other guys. How about D-Will? Darrell Williams didn't get to play in this game last year. He was injured. So was Alex Okafor. So was Juan Thornhill. So was Andrew Wiley. And Shop will tell you this. This league does not usually give you second chances. They got a second chance right here in this stadium. Now, why do I answer it that way? Because we've seen the elevation of guys. Byron Pringle has been a stud in the playoffs. Darrell Williams has been outstanding, either in a 4-down running back situation or catching critical passes to keep getting first downs and keep drives going. D-Will's a big part of this team getting to this spot. So it's been other guys stepping up. We know, you already listed the guys that are the familiar names. It's the unfamiliar guys that have lifted, the tide rises all boats. We've seen that in the playoffs, and including the offensive line. Guys like Allegretti. We've seen Remmers have to play right, and now he's going to have to play left. Those guys have all stepped up. Wisniewski slips right back in again. That's what's been impressive about this team in the playoffs. And on the defensive side, the D-backs are all hitting their prime right now. They're hitting the peak of their season when it counts the most.
Cannot wait to see what these guys can do tomorrow. Mitch, I know you're probably about to combust right now. You're so excited.
Dude, it's been 2 weeks of this. I calm down and then I get fired up. And my plane ride down here looked like a Hy-Vee Chiefs Kingdom Monday night show. It was full of fans doing cheers. Same in the terminal. And there's a bunch of Chiefs fans here in Tampa. But just understand the truly historic moment that's in front of us right now. If the Chiefs win this game, you got to think about this. In a 3-year span, they will be 46-10. It'll be one of the greatest runs in the history of this league. It's in its 101st year.
Cannot wait to see how it plays out tomorrow. Mitch, you have a pretty busy day ahead, so we'll let you go, but bring us some of victory, okay?
We're going to get these Chiefs fans to yell here a little bit. I got a whole live audience with us. Yeah, even the Bucks gal. Yeah, the Bucks gal's cheering for us. I like it. Yeah. We'll baptize you in the kingdom. We got it. But no, it's exciting here. We're ready to go. Let's get this. Let's do it. Run it back. Shop, Matt, we can see the top of the mountain again. We can see it from here. We'll unfold another banner at the top of that mountain.
Appreciate it, Mitch. Mitch could fire me up to go mow my lawn or something. It's incredible. His words just have power, don't they?
I just continue to write notes as he's talking. I know people think maybe I'm not paying attention. I'm just continuously writing notes. When he says, a tide raises all the boats, I think of Pat Mahomes as like a natural tsunami for the Kansas City Chiefs. The way he can rise the level of play of all of our wide receivers is like no other, right? We all focus on the Tyreek Hill. We focus on Sammy Watkins. But, man, what about D-Rod? What about Pringle? What about all the other offensive weapons that get elevated to a higher level by being in the presence and playing on the same field as one Pat Mahomes?
Just one punt for this offense in the playoffs so far. It's really been a lot of fun to watch. And for an additional perspective on this offense and Patrick Mahomes, I caught up with former Chiefs quarterback Trent Green earlier this week. All right, we're joined now by one of the greatest quarterbacks in Chiefs history, now a tremendous analyst for CBS Sports. Of course, talking about Trent Green. Trent, I want to ask you about Patrick Mahomes. You're a former quarterback yourself, obviously, so you're an authority on this topic. And we know how good Patrick is. He breaks records every single week, it seems like. But he seems to take his play to a new level in the postseason. I'm just curious your thoughts on that and how he's able to do that in the playoffs when the stage is biggest.
Well, and I think that's the thing that's really jumped out to me is it's almost like you can see it in his eyes, right? It could be big, whether it's big games during the regular season or, as you mentioned, the playoff games going over the last couple of years. Even back to, that first year he was a starter going into that AFC championship game in the final drive of regulation with 39 seconds where he goes down and puts him in position to get the field goal to send it to overtime. So he does. He gets laser focused when it comes, playoff time, when it comes big game time, and he's been able to handle the pressure. He's done a tremendous job of that. And the fact that he's only 25 and this is his third year as a starter and he's accomplished so much, it really is amazing. But, I think the guys around him expect it. I think that's part of being a leadership role of playing quarterback is number one, you have to be able to execute, you have to be able to carry out, and you have to be able, to do what the coaches are asking you to do. And then when you do that, then all of a sudden, the outside, the way players are looking at you changes. And I think that expectation comes in like, hey, this is no big deal. We got Patrick Mahomes. Hey, we're down by 4 with whatever time. We're down by 2. We're down, so it's perception. And a lot of it is when you go out there and you get it done, that perception carries with you. And I think that confidence carries with you. And I think that's why the Chiefs have been able to have a lot of success in close games and late in close games.
That actually leads into my next question. We've seen in Patrick's 7 playoff starts, Chiefs are averaging 34 points per game. I mean, that's just crazy. And this postseason in particular, just 1 punt in 2 postseason games. What's impressed you most about the Chiefs offense this particular postseason?
It's just finding ways that they're getting it done. This has been anything but a normal year. It's been anything but a normal season. There continues to be changes. There will be changes again on Super Bowl Sunday. The way they've been able to adapt. Are the main pieces still there? Definitely. Patrick Mahomes is there, Tyreek Hill's there, Travis Kelce's there. There's been a rotation at running back. There's been a rotation along the offensive line. Eric Fisher, prior to his injury at the championship game, he was the most established of the guys on the offensive line in terms of consecutive starts and starts without injury. Most of the other 4 positions had rotated quite a bit, a number of different bodies. And then now with Fisher's injury, that rotation continues even more. So I think that's the thing that's really been the most impressive of how they've been able to adapt and make adjustments and still finding ways to win.
And lastly, Trent, 2-part question here. With all that in mind, how can the Chiefs keep things rolling against this Tampa defense and this pass rush on Sunday? And put you on the spot, your game prediction for this one.
Well, the way they're going to have to keep the Bucs defense is, a lot has been made about the tackles and the edge rushers and JPP and Shaq Barrett coming off. Devin White, their linebacker in the middle, he's actually second on the team in sacks with 9. He leads the team in tackles with 140. So he's one of those guys. He's just a second-year player out of LSU. He's a sideline-to-sideline speed guy. He's a big factor in this game. He's actually a pretty good pass defender as well in terms of coverage. But I think what the Chiefs are going to have to do, they're going to have to slow down the rush. Whether that's Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy finding different ways to use McCole Hardman and Tyreek Hill with all those movements and stuff they do before the snaps or the fake reverses, the fake screen this way and through that. They've somehow got to find a way to slow down the rush. It'd be nice if they had some balance, with the running attack. It looks like Clyde Edwards-Helaire is going to be able to play, and Darrell Williams has been playing well, the last couple games. So if they could find some balance with the running game, take some of that pressure off the passing game, slow down the pass rush, then that's when things can open up for them. And then to your last question, as far as a prediction, I've been going with the score. I'm not all of a sudden just going to change something up. This has been my prediction. I think it is going to be an extremely close game. I think it's going to be one of those historic shootout kind of games. And I'm picking Kansas City 34-31. I do think that it's going to come down to the end, at least. When you've got 2 quarterbacks as good as Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, they faced off 4 times. They're 2-2 against each other. And they've really, when you look at those 4 games, they've all come down to close scores and 1-score games. And I think I'm like everybody else. I'm hoping this is the battle that we're all hoping for and just one of those, classic Super Bowl games. But I do think the Chiefs find a way to pull it out at the end.
Love a side of that. Tom Brady, one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time, if not the greatest, going against Patrick Mahomes, who's off to the greatest start for any quarterback in NFL history. A sage is definitely set here for this one. Should be a lot of fun. Hoping you're right. Hoping the Chiefs come out on top and win a 2nd straight Super Bowl. Just saying that is exciting. So can't wait to see how it plays out on Sunday. Trent, always awesome stuff. Really appreciate your time.
All right, awesome stuff there from Trent Green. It's cool talking to him for me, Sean, because that was my quarterback growing up. I was watching Chiefs football in the early 2000s, and that was my quarterback that made me fall in love with football. He's your quarterback too, wasn't he?
He was my quarterback twice. When I was in the Washington football team, he was my quarterback. And then when I came to Kansas City, not only was he my quarterback, but he was actually my host. He was the veteran who hosted me during my free agent trip to Kansas City. And through about a few hours of talking with him, I realized that playing for Coach Vermeil and being here in the Midwest was probably the best place for my family.
Nice. Well, that's really cool. Always seems like a great guy, and based on my conversations with you, he seems like a great guy as well. So
yeah, some good Super Bowl trivia for tomorrow.
Yeah, there we go. I really appreciate Trent's time and his analysis. Always great stuff, as always. And I want to keep this conversation about this Bucs defense going with you, Sean. This group is good. We know that number 8 scoring defense in the NFL, best run defense in football, 3.6 yards per attempt for opponents on the ground, only 80 yards on the ground allowed per game. So very good against the run. But the real story with them is their pass rush. That's been the narrative over the last 2 weeks is this team's pass rush. 48 sacks this season. That's 4th in the NFL. 116 quarterback hits, 2nd in the NFL. They have several guys who can get after the passer. Shaq Barrett, Jason Pierre-Paul, Devin White, William Golston. All those guys can get after the quarterback. And last time out against Green Bay, Barrett and Pierre-Paul alone combined for 5 sacks. So looking at the film, what stands out about this pass rush to you?
Man, when you break down the Tampa Bay pass rush, you got to look. I mean, it's edgy speed off the edges with Shaq Barrett, also JPP. Paul Pierre coming off the edge. But then when you look interiorly, in the interior, they still get a nice force up the field. They're taking those A and B gaps with Dominican Sue is a pressure up there, but then also with their linebackers, Levante Davis and Devin White. They are blitzing those B gaps. They are using their linebackers as additional pass rushers. We call it green dog. Sometimes the linebacker is responsible for a tight end or responsible for a running back, and when those guys don't go out in the coverage, they add to the pressure package. And so a lot of times when you talk about front 4, sometimes that leaks into their linebacker core. So you got about 6 guys you got to worry about, and your 5 guys got to pick up their 6. And so from a pressure standpoint, it's edgy speed off the edge, lightning quick guys pin their ears back with Shaq Barrett and JPP, but then there's also that interior push to push that pocket to try to eliminate the chance of a quarterback stepping up in the pocket.
Now, the good news is the Chiefs back in Week 12 mostly held this pass rush at bay. Just 2 sacks for Tampa in that game. 1 was a strip sack, so that was a bad thing. But overall, we held this pass rush at bay. There's Mike Rimmers and Nick Allegretti arriving at the airport. 2 guys will be counting on to hold this pass rush at bay. But this offense overall against Tampa Bay and this defense, as good as they are, had a ton of success back in Week 12. That we know that. 269 yards for Tyreek Hill through the air. Most of that happened in the first quarter. And Patrick Mahomes threw for almost 500 yards in that game. So kind of a 3-part question here for you, Sean.
All right.
How are the Bucs defending the Chiefs in that first half? How did the Chiefs take advantage? What adjustments did they make? And what are you expecting this time around for this Bucs defense?
All right, well, let's talk about Todd Bowles, right? He's a defensive coordinator. Let's see, is he going to be who he's been all season long? Historically, Todd Bowles, he's an aggressive, he runs a lot of zones and blitzes and stuff like that. But one thing he does is he doesn't change much. He's not a guy who's going to abandon what they've been doing all season long just to try to beat you. And I look at the New Orleans Saints game. Early in the year, the Saints scored 34 points against them, and then later on another 30 points. When they got to the playoffs to play him a 3rd time in one season, he stood true to his same concepts. The one thing they did, they got a little bit more aggressive. They got a little bit more physical. They got a little bit more risky and challenged Drew Brees at the line of scrimmage and really just came after him a little bit more. So one thing I can kind of say, even though we beat up on them and we started off fast, our offense was explosive the first time we played them, it ended up being, in the second half, the game got a lot closer. They made some adjustments, and what I see is them ramping up the physicality, getting a little bit more aggressive, trying to reroute our receivers early on, and get Mahomes by any means necessary.
I want to circle back on a Steam question here in a moment, but first, it's important to point out the ball-hawking nature of this Bucs defense in the postseason. The good news is, looking back at Week 12, the Chiefs turned it over just once in that game. It was that strip sack, and they have just 2 turnovers this entire postseason. None of them are on offense with Patrick Mahomes at quarterback. Chad Henne threw an interception, and Nicole Hardman had a fumbled punt. But the offense with Patrick Mahomes has not turned the ball over this postseason. That's good news, because you look at this Tampa Bay defense, they've been turning the ball over a lot. 7 takeaways in 3 postseason games, and they've scored 41 points off those takeaways. That's 45% of their point total in the postseason. You can't give them extra chances because they've been making the most of it.
Yeah, in the NBA, I've heard this term. They say you live by the 3 and you die by the 3. Well, in football, it's the same thing with turnovers. You live by turnovers and you die by them. When they create a lot of turnovers, their offense is very opportunistic to put points on the board. But when you don't turn it over and you make it a possession-by-possession game, their offense kind of gets a little stagnant. So look for our offense to be, I wouldn't say cautious, but we definitely going to be concerned about knowing they have ball hawks all around the field. Their secondary will come up trying to punch the ball out, trying to strip sack, like you said, instead of just getting a normal sack, tackle for loss. Definitely going after that football to try to create a short field for their offense.
And here's my next scheme question for you, Sean. The one thing about these Bucs is they blitz a ton. 5th highest blitz rate in the NFL this season. And since week 13, that's the week after we saw them, they have the highest blitz rate in the NFL. But here's the thing. The best quarterback in the NFL against the blitz is Patrick Mahomes. He's averaging more than 9 yards per attempt against the blitz this season. His passer rating is over 135. He's better against the blitz than most quarterbacks are with the clean pocket. It's truly incredible what he can do. And the Bucs recognized that back in week 12. They only blitzed him 9 times, one of their lowest rates of the year. But on those 9 blitzes, he goes 6 of 9 for 106 yards and 2 touchdowns. So, Sean, million-dollar question. Todd Bowles doesn't like to change much. Will he blitz Mahomes on Sunday, or will he sit back and play coverage?
I mean, I think he's going to learn from previous mistakes. And so when you blitz Pat Mahomes, you expose the back end. It's a give and take. It's a risk-reward matrix. Every time you want to bring more defenders to try to speed up a quarterback's process, get him down on the ground, force him out of his comfort zone, you're giving up some of your defenders on the back end. Our offensive weapons, once we release and go downfield, are so exciting, so explosive. The last thing you want to do against the Chiefs offense is take guys out of the secondary just to try to speed Pat Mahomes up. He's so elusive, he can create extra time. When you force him out the pocket, he creates more time, and that allows his receivers to become even more explosive.
And of course, the big question in this game is, will the Bucs try to get pressure with just 4 with no Eric Fisher out there at left tackle? Mike Remmers will flip over to left tackle, and Andrew Wiley, I'm presuming, will bounce out to right tackle with Stefan Wisniewski at guard. Those guys can do it. We know that. But there's also strategies you can employ to hold a tenacious pass rush at bay. And for more on some strategies to do that, we caught up with a guy that knows a thing or two about playing offensive line, Tim Grunhard, just a few minutes ago. All right, we're joined now by former Chiefs center Tim Grunhard, of course, 11-year veteran Pro Bowler, now a Chiefs ambassador, still doing a lot of stuff in our community. Tim, thanks for joining us, man.
It's my pleasure. I want one of these cool sweatshirts you guys have. Oh, that is really neat. And by the way, congratulations to Kansas City. Congratulations to Kansas City Chiefs. Another Super Bowl.
Absolutely. We had you on the show last year, so you're good luck, I think.
That's right. You know what? And we'll be on again next year.
That's the plan. That's the plan. Now, you're perfect for this segment because one of the big narratives in this game is, of course, no Eric Fisher for the Chiefs in this one. The offensive line of the Chiefs has some injuries. We've seen what they've done all year long, played pretty well, but no Fisher. We know that. This Tampa Bay pass rush is really good. That's a big storyline coming into this one. With your experience along the offensive line, what are some strategies the Chiefs could use to help negate that pass rush?
Well, first of all, Andy Reid's going to have a plan for those guys. He's not going to put the offensive line in a position to fail. He will get his system where they get rid of the ball fairly quick, get the ball into the athlete's hands. You see Tyreek Hill, Hardman getting the ball maybe out in the flats. If you watch University of Alabama this year in their offense, all they did basically is get their really good athletes the ball in space. And the Kansas City Chiefs offense, the fuel for their offense is space. And I always say, don't get in a fight with a bully in a phone booth. So spread those guys out. So there's maybe 4 guys on the line, 6 guys in the box. So now you can kind of decide, okay, listen, we're going to turn the protection towards Pierre-Paul. We're going to make sure that, Goulston's not hurting us. What about Shaq? So they can make those kind of differentials as they go on through the game. Patrick Mahomes does such a great job of getting rid of the ball and also buying time with his feet and with his eyes. If you watch him, his eyes buy more time and move more people than anybody can do. It's just so much fun to watch him.
All right, now I just wanted to follow up. I heard you say JPP and Shaq Barrett.
Yeah.
Tell us some of the strengths and weaknesses about today's pass rushers.
Well, I think today's pass rushers is all green. Remember the old adage where, hey, listen, we're going to go after the quarterback, but that would be picked and choose.
Yes.
When you were playing and I was playing. In third down situations, now these guys, they're just going up the field. And I think a lot of times they lose contain. A lot of times they break down the kind of the continuity of the defense, and they can cause issues. And I think Patrick Mahomes has done a really good job this year taking care of those issues once they're presented to him. So he'll be able to kind of make some space. The thing about Patrick Mahomes is makes him so special, he's a creator, and he creates in space. Once again, space equals fuel for this offense, whether it's space for the athletes, whether it's space for Patrick Mahomes by finding that with the undisciplined pass rushers, or whether it's space by the offensive line, giving him a little bit of breathing room and giving him a pocket, like we say, give him a deep and wide pocket. If you can do that, you're going to have a chance. But this is going to be tough because they're going to pin their ears back and they're going to come after Patrick Mahomes.
All right, I'm going to quickly follow up with what you said. You said a space. You said he's a space eater. He loves a lot of space to work with.
Yeah.
Well, being an offensive lineman who historically you block for pocket passers, kind of talk about the difference of mentality you have to have as an offensive lineman blocking for a true pocket passer versus somebody who is as mobile as Pat Mahomes.
Well, when you have a guy who's mobile, first of all, he gets you out of trouble because if you get beat, he can make a guy miss. But you also don't know where he's at. So a lot of times when you're pass blocking, you don't have eyes behind your head, so you kind of have to feel for where he's at, and by the reaction of the defensive lineman, you kind of get a feel for where your quarterback's at. But when the guys that I play with, like Gerback, Montana, Steve DeBerg, there wasn't a lot of roaming around going on back there, so we pretty much knew where they were going to be. But like a guy like, Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon was one other guy. When he came in, all of a sudden, Rich Gannon is supposed to be way over here on the left. The next thing you know, he's way over on the right, and the defensive guy's trying to escape. And the one thing I got to tell these guys to do, and I know they're listening. I know offensive linemen, you're out there listening, especially for the Chiefs. When the guys try to escape, don't grab, push. Because if you push, you won't get called for holding. And once a guy is pushed and he's off balance, that's all Patrick Mahomes needs is just a little bit of time. But it's a natural reaction. Once you guys leaving, you're going to grab. If you push him, get him off balance, Patrick Mahomes will have time. We don't need penalties. Penalties and turnovers will kill us in this game. And if the Chiefs could stay away from those two things, put another ring on it.
And it's kind of funny if you think about it when talking about style of play at quarterback, because we couldn't have more different quarterbacks here, and Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady. Patrick Mahomes, yeah, pretty mobile. Tom Brady, not so mobile. So not expecting him to run too much tonight.
Yes, it's funny because some of the defensive linemen for the Chiefs said he's hard to sack because he has shiftability in his shoulders. I don't know what that means. I mean, Sean, you've missed a lot of quarterback sacks. What does that mean when with shiftability?
It's just a little shimmy, a little shimmy. Some quarterbacks, when you get around them, you got guys that dip, you got guys that roll out, you got guys that are mobile. Hey, Tom Brady knows he has no leg movement, no mobility, so right at the point of contact, he gives you a little shimmy to try to get you off.
The shimmy. It's a shimmy. And you didn't notice that I kind of ripped you a little bit, just messing with it, right? You missed a lot of quarterback sacks. You let me get away with that. What's wrong with you?
I'm focused.
You are.
I'm so focused on
Always
the game.
focused.
Like the Chief fans in Kansas City, everybody's focused.
So last question for you here, Tim. You were obviously a huge part of this team back in the 90s, and you're still a huge part of the city, part of the Ambassadors. This team means a lot to you. We all know that. What would a win tomorrow mean to you?
Man, I'll tell you, it's just so great. These guys that we're watching play, wearing the red right now, they're like our little brothers. And when we go out there and we watch, we just live vicariously through them, and we're just excited for them. And I think everybody here in Kansas City is. It's like when you go out and watch your little brother play Little League Baseball and he hits a home run, you're the first one standing up and cheering and being most excited about it, and that's the way we are. We're fans just like you guys. We are excited about these guys. We love watching these guys go out there and perform. The great thing for us is you know what, we're in that fraternity, we're in that brotherhood. We've worn those jerseys, and it was just a little bit more pride for us. The one thing that I regret in my career is not being able to hand the Lamar Hunt trophy to Lamar Hunt. But to see these guys hand the Lamar Hunt trophy to Clark Hunt really makes me feel good. I know the Super Bowl's great, and believe me, that's the most exciting thing. But for us, to be able to give Lamar his own trophy, we're able to do that. So when I see that, it brings tears to my eyes. And this whole run has been very emotional for me. I know for Sean, it's just so great to see these guys having success.
Yeah, well, I'm so glad that you guys are a part of it. I grew up watching you guys, so I'm glad that you're a part of this. You have a ring on your finger. That's a great thing. And
it's so much fun.
Just thanks so much for being here, Tim, and everything you do for Kansas City. Thank you.
It's my pleasure. Anytime you need it. Let's go Chiefs. Let's go get another Super Bowl. Let's put another ring on it, and let's come home and have a virtual parade, and then a real parade, and just have a blast.
All right, great stuff there from Tim Grunhard. We were just talking off air about this, but I think he had made a lot of good points about how you can scheme up to find ways to hold a pass rush like this at bay. It's one thing if you lose Eric Fisher like in the second quarter of a game. Yes. You have to figure it out from there, but you have 2 weeks to scheme this up. I like the Chiefs' chances of figuring this one out. So if you've been watching our show here over the last 20 minutes or so, you can see right now guys arriving at the airport. The plane is currently de-icing. It will be taking off shortly. These are shots of the guys arriving, getting ready to head down to Tampa for Super Bowl 55. And Sean, you're a player. You've played this game before. You've felt what these guys are feeling. I'm pretty good at Madden, but I've never felt what these guys are feeling before. I'm just curious, the guy sitting on that plane waiting for it to take off, go to Tampa. What are they feeling right now?
Man, true transparency, right? I've never played in the Super Bowl, so I'm telling you what it feels like to go to a game, to prepare for a game mindset. You're going through alignment, assignment adjustments. You're going through the game plan. You're going through just things, little nuances you might have saw on film that you think might, be a hiccup or something they might try. But as far as the preparation for the game itself, I believe our Chiefs team actually is an advantage not being in Tampa for the whole week of media gala and all the things that's usually done on the Super Bowl. It's a lot of hoopla. It's a lot of distractions to get your mind off of football. Being able to stay here in Kansas City, getting your work week done early last week, and then doing the media virtually and being able to still be at home, sleep at home, do everything I think it gives us an advantage of not having all that distractions, and our guys can even be more laser focused on the job at hand tomorrow and get things done.
And in your estimation, Sean, just the fact that these guys, most of these guys, were there last year and were on this stage, how does that experience help them in getting ready for this?
Man, experience is a beautiful thing because it's nothing new. Your body is acclimated to the excitement, the energy level, the influx of energy and testosterone and excitement you're going to feel when it's kickoff. The majority of our team just been through this, and they know it, and they're preparing themselves for that adrenaline rush. Hey, if you're Tampa Bay and you got a bunch of newbies that ain't experienced what this is, there's a tick up from regular season to postseason, but then it's a very high kick up from postseason to the Super Bowl. And I think you're going to see a lot of guys on Tampa Bay early in the game might short circuit, might be a lot of false starts, a lot of penalties, just because they just have so much energy, so much excitement, they're not going to be ready for the moment. Our team will be ready.
We'll keep you guys posted on that plane when it is going to take off down for Tampa. Now, you mentioned Super Bowl experience. One guy that has a lot of Super Bowl experience is, of course, Tom Brady. This is his 10th career Super Bowl, and we're going to talk about him and this Tampa offense now. At 43 years old, Brady threw for 4,633 yards and 40 touchdowns this season. That's his highest touchdown total since 2007, which is absolutely crazy. What do you make of Brady this year?
Man, listen, I've always told people from the get-go, I'm not a Brady fan, and it has nothing to do with his stats. It's kind of just about when he was in Tampa Bay early on in his year, when he was winning those rings and all that Deflategate, all that other kind of stuff off the field. Man, to me, the game is played hard-nosed, 100%, but it's always played by the rules. And if I have any thoughts or any doubts that anybody on that field is playing with an advantage or anything off the books, man, like you just lose respect. So when you talk about GOATs, Brady is not even in my vocabulary. All that Deflategate and all that filming people's films and knowing their plays before the game even started, man, you're out of here in my category. But I know a lot of people love him. He has a lot of stats. He has a lot of experience. Experience is valuable, and sometimes in certain situations, experience can even be more valuable than raw talent. But the one thing with our quarterback, with raw talent, he adds to that vision. He adds to that anticipation. He has that photographic memory where he can call upon different plays, and it allows our offense and Eric Bieniemy and Coach Andy Reid, they can adjust on the fly. They can adjust to what the defense is doing just with one or two words. They don't even need to get to the side and bring out the surfaces and let them see it. He has a memory for this game. He is built to be a MVP, All-American, All-World type quarterback, and we have the luxury of having him being on our quarterback on our team, Pat Mahomes.
Certainly a good feeling knowing we have Patrick Mahomes on our side for the next 12 years at least.
Yes.
I do want to circle back to Brady, though, and the weapons he has around him, because he has some playmakers. Mike Evans, he's the big one, 70 grabs for 1,000 yards and 13 touchdowns this year. Probably the best receiver the Chiefs have faced this season. We'll see him again now in the Super Bowl. And also Chris Godwin, he's a playmaker, 840 yards and 7 touchdowns in just 12 games. He's kind of a great Robin to Mike Evans' Batman on this Tampa Bay offense. Then other guys, Antonio Brown, he's questionable entering this game, but we know what he can do. Scotty Miller, Rob Gronkowski, the list goes on. They have lots of guys in this passing game, and they also involve their running backs in the passing game with Ronald Jones and Leonard Fournette. He has some guys around him who can make some plays.
Yeah, I'm going to focus on those first 3 threats. You know, those are the major guys we need to make sure we eliminate and take away from the game. So Antonio Brown, he's a guy, like you said, a little questionable, a little bit injured. If I'm a defense, I look at that injury report. I want to test guys that are fresh off the injury report, and I want to test them in the first snap. I'm rerouting, I'm jamming them, I'm hitting them down the field. I'm doing everything I can do from a physical standpoint to be so aggressive and test whatever injuries you do have coming into the game. And then Chris Godwin, he's a guy that, hey, man, when he came out of Penn State, this guy's a great possession receiver. He does amazing things down the field. He has awesome hands, but he does drop the ball a lot, and that kind of confuses me. But when I watch it, it's not always his fault. The inaccuracy from the quarterback position sometimes has the ball so far out that it leads to him dropping the ball sometimes. And sometimes he's had to, make these outstanding catches on routes where he's wide open. And I think that's a little bit of a test and a tell of Tom Brady's lack of accuracy when you talk about the middle level, the mid-range, the mid-depths when it comes to the passing game. And then, man, we talked about him, Mike Evans. He's a big play receiver, big play Mike, but he does all his work down the field. He loves the 50-50 ball. He has a great catch radius. You can put the ball anywhere in his zip code, in his area code. He'll come down with it. But what you got to do is you got to challenge him to get off the line of scrimmage. You got to get in his face, force him to work. His work ethic. And I know it's hard to believe in the NFL, guys don't work hard, but he's been known to take loafs, takes plays off. He's not a guy that gives full efforts every down. And sometimes you can tell if the ball is headed his way just by his get off. So that's a tell for a DB. He's not a guy that gives full effort every play. And so when he's giving it full effort, the ball might come his way, and you better be heads up for it.
So something interesting I find about Brady and how he fits in this offense is you look at Brady's career historically, and he's been great. We know that. But the way he plays is he takes advantage of what the defense gives him. He plays underneath football, throws to his running backs, his tight ends, stuff like that. And he still does that to an extent. Leonard Fournette this postseason has 17 targets. But one thing that's been really different about him this year with Bruce Arians is he's throwing the ball deep a lot, more than he ever has before. And there's the plane, it's moving. The plane's moving toward the runway, taxiing, hopefully taking off soon. But once again, 91 throws of 20 or more air yards this season at 43 years old. That was the most he's ever had in his career, and also led the NFL, which is really interesting. At 43 years old, you're all of a sudden a deep ball passer. His success on those throws has varied this season. So early on, his first 6-7 games, a lot of success. He completed about half of them. It's pretty good. Then midseason fell into a 1-for-19 slump, and that was kind of a big deal when we played them. That was a big talking point about Tom Brady. He finished strong, though, completing about half of those throws over his last 4 or 5 games. But it gets interesting in the playoffs. So he's attempted more deep passes in the playoffs than any other passer. He's like 24 of them. And that's 9 more than second place. So he's doing it a lot. He's 4 for his last 17. And you look at the Packers game a few weeks ago in the NFC Championship game, those 3 interceptions he threw, all 3 on deep passes. So I'm very interested to see if he keeps doing it. And based on what he's done this season, he will. He'll throw the ball deep and take his shots. So I'm curious, Sean, as a defender, if you're Tyrann Mathieu or Juan Thornhill, one of these guys, are you excited knowing you can make a play? Because when you look at his deep ball passing, when he does it well, they win games. This offense cruises. Yes. But it can also create opportunities for the defense to make plays.
One of the misnomers is when you talk about the deep ball, is a lot of ways for a ball to get beyond 50 yards. And if the one thing that people need to realize is when he throws the ball deep, it hangs up like a punt. It's up for anybody to get. Pat Mahomes, his deep throws, you talk about 30, 40, 50 yards, are still thrown on a rope. They get there immediately. It's time for a receiver to be able to catch it and still make a move. Tom Brady's receivers are sometimes underthrown, and they're waiting on the ball. And sometimes they get out of phase with the receiver, and that allows defenders to make big plays on the ball. Obviously, we talk about that Green Bay Packers game. Their safeties had 2 opportunities late in the game to close that game out where they wouldn't even allow the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to be here today. And that was, again, making ill-advised balls being thrown down the field. Tom Brady at 43, yes, he attempts to throw it downfield, but he really doesn't have the arm strength to get it there the way with the zip that you need it to be as effective as most high-end quarterbacks. And you see his QBR against the pressure, against blitzes and against pass rush, it goes way down when he's pressured. When you get him off his mark, he even becomes more inaccurate because he can't put velocity on the ball. So I know at 43, everybody's hoping one last chance for this guy Tom Brady to ride off into the sunset in the history books with a championship. I'm sorry, guys. Father Time is undefeated. He catches up with everybody, and I'm looking for Father Time to catch up with Tom Brady tomorrow on Super Bowl Sunday.
We're going to talk about that pressure here in just a minute because you're right. We're going to expand on that point. One reason I'm interested in this deep ball thing, though, is because you look at the Chiefs' defense this year. They never get the credit they deserve, but yet they were the best defense in the NFL by a number of metrics on passes of 10 or more yards. So it's an interesting matchup to watch watching this one. Can Tom Brady complete the deep ball? Sean, this whole thing is a great example of when I have way too much time to sit around and think about a game. 2 weeks, I'm just sitting in the office like, let's chart Tom Brady's deep passes from week 2. But, here we are. I think it could be a big thing in this game where Tyrann Mathieu, Juan Thornhill, somebody playing center field can make a big play. But for now, for more on Tom Brady and how he's still doing his thing at 43 years old, I caught up with a former teammate of Tom's at the University of Michigan, Brian Griese, earlier this week. All right, we're joined now by Brian Griese of ESPN. And Brian, you're an authority on this topic because you played with Tom Brady at Michigan way back in the day. Tom's still doing his thing at 43 years old, had a great season here for the Bucs, and now, of course, finds himself in the Super Bowl once again. I'm just curious, in your opinion, how does Tom Brady keep doing this at such a high level into his 40s? And what's the key to slowing him down on Sunday?
Well, if I knew the answer to Tom Brady doing it into his 40s, maybe it's the found of youth. I don't know. Maybe he took some elixir or something. I'm not sure. But I do know this. You don't get to this point in your career at 43 years old on a new team if you aren't extremely competitive. And that's the thing. That's the quality in Tom Brady that I think people overlook a little bit. Because they all talk about the intelligence and on the field and throwing the ball and, avocado ice cream and all those different things, taking care of his body. But he is the most competitive person that I've ever been around. And I know that this week he is not thinking about, the previous 6 Super Bowl titles. That is not his motivation. His motivation is number 7. And he realizes that this game on Sunday will be a historic moment, no matter what happens. It's either going to be Tom Brady, in his 10th Super Bowl, wins his 7th ring, and does it against the best quarterback in the game today. And it would be the most important and historic victory, I think, if he's able to pull it off for a quarterback in NFL history. And on the other side, Patrick Mahomes is chasing the greatest start to a career in NFL history for a quarterback. So this is the matchup we all wanted. And I think we're going to look back on it 15, 20 years from now and say it was a watershed moment in the history of the league. And so I'm just really excited and fortunate to be in the stadium calling the game for ESPN International. And I know the Chiefs Kingdom there is excited to repeat. It's so hard to repeat. Just so many storylines and what a great finish to such a difficult season in the NFL and for all of us dealing with the pandemic. Hopefully we can all just enjoy it safely on Sunday.
You actually led me into my next question here for you. As a former quarterback, when you see this quarterback matchup where you have Tom Brady, as you said, arguably the greatest quarterback of all time, and then Patrick Mahomes is off to the greatest start for any quarterback in NFL history, going head-to-head, we just don't see matchups like this very often. It's the first Super Bowl matchup between quarterbacks who have already won Super Bowl MVP and NFL MVP honors. As a former quarterback, seeing this matchup, just how special is it for you?
Well, it's unique, as you mentioned. I can't wait to see what Patrick Mahomes does. Because we know that he's the best quarterback in the game right now. We know that he has the potential and the trajectory and the organization, the coaching, the talent around him to be on a trajectory that we have never seen before. But there's also a challenge that we haven't seen before for Patrick Mahomes with the injuries that he's had on the offensive line. So everybody wants to just glaze over that, but that will be a challenge. And how Patrick and Andy Reid, Eric Bieniemy, the play callers deal with that, I think is a huge storyline in this game and a challenge that is unique to this game for Patrick Mahomes. And then on the other side, I think that the chess match between Steve Spagnuolo and Tom Brady will be fascinating to watch. The history and experience they have against each other will be fascinating. The way that they played in Week 12, the way that Steve Spagnuolo came after Tom Brady with all-out blitzes 3 times in the first 3 drives is fascinating. So it's going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah, certainly no lack of storylines here in this Super Bowl. Brian, awesome stuff as always. Thanks so much for your time.
Okay, good luck on Sunday.
All right, great stuff there from Brian Griese. Really appreciate his time. The plane is still taxiing. It's getting ready to take off. Bet the guys are looking forward to some warm Florida weather, looking at that snow, don't you think?
Yeah, you can tell the way they was dressed getting on the plane. We showed your shot earlier, Tyreek. He looks like he's already in the warm weather as he was hurrying up the stairs to get up there. Man, it's going to be a great trip. I guess our guys are just locked in and focused. No, in 48 hours from now, however your countdown works, it's a chance to come home being a back-to-back champion in a sport that you try your hardest, takes so much time, sacrifice. Everything we give up for an entire season comes down to this one moment.
Yeah, there the plane goes. We'll be taking off shortly. Now, Sean, I want to follow up on one thing you mentioned earlier, and that's pressuring Tom Brady. Brian mentioned this as well. It's really the key when facing Tom Brady. Pressure is the absolute key. When not pressured this year, he's Tom Brady. He's completed 70% of his passes, averaged over 8 yards per attempt, and 43 touchdowns. But when he is pressured, he is a totally different player. He's completing just 41% of his passes, averaging 5 yards per attempt, and he's thrown 4 touchdowns to 6 interceptions. Pressure is key, Sean.
As always, so Coach Spags used to be my linebacker coach in 2006. So people don't understand that connection. One thing he used to tell us is pressure bust pipes. If you look at the offense and you treat it like a steam engine, it is what it is. It runs. It's an amazing thing when it's running the right way. But pressure bust pipes, and it's 3 things, right? He always told us as a defense, we got to do these things in order. Stop the run. Be great tacklers. Be great physical tacklers. And then he didn't use attack. He used the word kill, but we would attack the quarterback. Attacking the quarterback, affecting his throws was always one of the 3 keys of stopping the offense. And we talk about Tom Brady and the offensive weapons he has, we got to affect the quarterback. You got to knock him down, you got to hurry him, or you got to sack him. And those 3 ways of affecting, as we talk about attacking the quarterback.
So we talked about how I had way too much time on my hands the last couple weeks. I did something else that had way too much time on my hands. When pressured less than 10 times this season, less than 10 times this year, Brady is a perfect 11-0. But when pressured 10 or more times, he's 3-5. So it's really that simple. Get pressure on Tom Brady and you win the football game. The Chiefs pressured Brady 11 times back in Week 12 and forced a pair of interceptions, helped win that ball game for them. And we saw just 2 weeks ago in the AFC Championship game, the Chiefs, according to ESPN, pressured Josh Allen on 47% of his dropbacks. It was the highest rate in a postseason game for any team since 2009. That's when they started tracking the stats, so it probably goes even further than that. What's been the key to the Chiefs getting pressure in the playoffs so far, and how can they replicate that on Sunday?
I think it's our versatility, and we talk about the versatility of our secondary. There are really no safeties and corners on our team. I know we got guys that categorically Pro Football Focus, all these other people, we put certain guys as corners, certain guys as safeties. But in Steve Spagnuolo's defense, man, everybody should be a jack of all trades. You never know when you're going to be covering a wide out, covering a tight end or a running back. You never know when you're going to be responsible for a middle third or a deep quarter, and you never know when you're going to be coming off the edge to try to make a hit on a quarterback. So whether it's a corner blitz, safety blitz, nickel blitz, all of those things are active and up in the game plan, and so you got to be ready to do everything. Fill a gap, be a spy, do all the things that's necessary that keeps you not only creative and energetic, it keeps the offensive guy, that quarterback, but knowing exactly what you're doing or where that pressure is coming. Because that's one thing we talk about, the experience of Tom Brady. He's seen a lot of football over the years, and there's no way to recreate the wheel. There's no new way to blitz and to pressure Tom Brady, but you got to disguise on the back end, and you got to be able to bring it and cause them to hesitate and cause their receivers to, as far as their release and their getting into their routes, try to get them off of script, get them off of being on the same page, and that leads to big sacks, big losses, and that's a positive thing for our defense.
This defense, once again, has played so well, and they never get the credit they deserve. And if they can win this game, I think they will start to get that credit. But one area they'll have to be good as well, in addition to pressure, is third down. Third down's always important. That's obvious in football, but it's especially important against these Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Look at the NFC title game against Green Bay. The Bucs really weren't moving the ball on first and second down. It was third down they got their chunk yards. On first and second down in that game, they averaged 4 yards per play. That's not awful, but they had some big plays mixed in there. For the most part, they really weren't moving the ball on on the early downs. But on third down, they averaged more than 11 yards. They start 6 for 6 on third down against Green Bay and converted 8 of their first 11. Green Bay just couldn't get off the field defensively. And overall this season, Tampa Bay was the 4th worst first down offense in the NFL, but they always seem to make up for it later. This is an area that Chiefs were successful back in Week 12. Look at third down. They start 1 for 6 against the Chiefs on third down. That's a big reason why the Chiefs raced out to that big lead. A similar effort on Sunday is critical.
Definitely our third down defense needs to be something that has grown throughout the season. A lot of people believe that, you are who you say you are, and early in the season, if you can't get off the field, you can improve in so many areas defensively, because defense is all about trust. It's about communication. It's about knowing where your teammates are, where your help is, and playing with the right amount of leverage. And then when it's time to make a tackle, being a ferocious and a sure tackler and getting off the field. There are so many times during the season you'll see a defender will be there to stop a guy short of the first down, and because of a missed tackle, the offense gets a whole nother set of downs. So we have to be very confident in our tackling ability. We got to get off the field on third down, but early downs also. You can't give up a bunch of yardage on first down. You got to hold runs to, just a few yardage, because those runs, if they are successful, it leads to play-action passing, and play-action pass leads to big chunk plays, and that's what Tampa Bay wants to do. They want to run the ball, get you going, get you thinking run, and then hit you with some play-action passes deep. So that's what we want to do. Keep them off script. Let our defense continue to just do what we do. Play loose, play aggressive, get after that quarterback as much as possible. And we got to always be ready in the red zone to account for Cameron Brake and Rob Gronkowski. That's where they do most of their damage in the red zone. And then obviously our linebackers and safeties, when you talk about flare routes and angle routes by the running backs, because Tom Brady, he's throwing the ball more and more to that running back tight end position, especially in the red zone when the field gets short. We have to be aware of all those things and just play like our hair is on fire. Do what we do on defense, create turnovers, create big plays. The landlord needs to be the landlord, Chris Jones. It's time for you to, Sack Nation, and it's time to put some chum in the water and let the shark go feed. A feeding frenzy in Tampa Bay tomorrow.
It's a great transition, my friend, because I want to ask you about red zone at defense. We know the Bucs at times are going to get their yards. They have too much talent, so they're going to be in the red zone at times. So finding ways to hold them to field goals is really important.
Yes.
The Chiefs were so good about that red zone defense against the Buffalo Bills. You think about multiple times in that game, the Bills drove inside the Chiefs' 10-yard line, didn't get touchdowns. And really, there was a drive at the end of the first half and the drive, their first drive of the second half. Both times they get inside the 10-yard line. They got a combined 6 points on those 2 possessions. That, in part, won the game for the Chiefs, was the red zone defense. How would you defend Brady and this Buccaneers offense in the red zone?
Man, you got to be very aggressive, very opportunistic. When they give you a chance to make a turnover, a big player sack, you can't miss it. Those are the things when you have a chance. We talked about Tim Grunhard talked about Brady having that shimmy shoulders, how you got him, you're targeting, you're zoning on him, you're going to make it, and he has enough experience. He has a play clock. He knows somebody's coming. He'll just move those shoulders to buy himself another second to try to get the ball off. We got to be ball hawks. We got to be secure when we get to the quarterback and get him down to create some longer yardage for those third downs. Hey, we know the vertical game gets thrown out when you talk about red zone offense and defense, and when you ain't got to take scenes going vertically, you got to be very aggressive and be able to really react aggressively to all those zones when receivers sit down in your zones and dead spots and stuff like that. So it's just being aggressive. And I like our mentality. I like the amount of pressure we're bringing, even in the red zone. We got to continue to bring that pressure and keep Tom Brady and his receivers from getting to that timing game. They get that timing going, it's very hard to stop them.
Absolutely. See the graphic there about the Chiefs' red zone excellence on their offensive side of things. I want to talk about that briefly as well. Against the Buffalo Bills, they were terrific in the red zone offensively, scoring on 5 of their 6 red zone trips. The Bucs have struggled in the red zone in terms of defense this season for the most part. They were actually pretty good against Green Bay, though. A couple crucial red zone drives for the Packers where they did not get touchdowns and they settled for field goals, really lost them that game. The Chiefs have to finish drives with touchdowns tomorrow.
When I look at both games, I watched the Tampa Bay versus Green Bay game. It was very predictable. I knew exactly where Tom Brady was going with the ball. It was the same plays they've been calling. They just have playmakers that make plays even on 50-50 balls. And that is something that defensively you got to be aware of. And you got to rise to the occasion, knock that ball away from Mike Evans, knock the ball away from Scotty Miller when it's only one play they can run, right before half. It's only one play they can run. All goes, and you undercut it. And you get, it's certain things on defense, you got to know when they're attacking certain zones and then be ready to make plays. And then as far as our offense, it's almost a complete opposite. when our team has the ball, and I watch every Chiefs game every week, I have no idea who's going to be targeted, where it's going to go, whether we're going to run it, screen pass, jet runs around the end, shovel passes to Kelsey, big pig, big tuna, all the different plays we got called, Fisher, Zeus play, Kelsey play. It is so many different variations to our offense. I'm excited just to see how and where we attack when it gets to the red zone because Andy Reid and Coach Bieniemy, they've doing not just this year, every year. They do a great job of just continuously to evolve and create new things. The Rose Bowl play. Yep. There's always something with this offense. So I'm excited, and I'm anticipating a new wrinkle to our offense when we get in that red zone.
Yeah, the creativity, particularly in the red zone, is always so much fun to watch. All right, let's take a quick break now and go back down to Tampa, where I caught up with Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas earlier this week. All right, we're joined now by Kansas City Mayor Quentin Lucas. And Mr. Mayor, you just arrived in Tampa. You're down there scoping everything out for us. What's the energy like? What's the vibe like down there in Tampa?
Well, it's amazing. The weather's great, but it's a little scary with all the pirates. Thank you, guys.
Well, I'm curious. You've only been down there a little bit, but how is Chiefs Kingdom represented so far in your view?
You know what? Chiefs Kingdom is amazing. I have already gone by what look like $200 million yachts with Chiefs flags. Lots of Chiefs fans around, lots of folks walking around. And we also have a little branch of Chiefs Kingdom and Florida natives who've been down here walking up to me saying we love our squad.
All right. Love the sound of that. Love the sound of that. For those of us that can't be down there, we're counting on you guys to bring us home a victory. Now, Mr. Mayor, I understand you're a pretty big football fan. We've been talking about our keys to the game for the last hour or so. But I'm just curious, what are your keys to this game for the Chiefs to win a second consecutive Lombardi trophy?
Well, there are a few things that are big. First of all the fans who are down here are going to make a ton of noise for Kansas City. So don't worry about that. We will do our job, whether there are 200 of us in there or 2,000. We'll make sure it's heard. But more than anything, make sure we're committing to a few different things. Our defense has stepped up a lot in the playoffs. I'm looking forward to my guys being strong. Keep our quarterback, Patrick Mahomes, healthy. He's been outstanding. But pretty much the team unifying ball that the Chiefs have been playing is all that we need to succeed. I'm looking for a good game.
Absolutely. And lastly, I like to think that sports teams take on the personality of their city, and we've certainly seen that here in Kansas City over the last several years. Really, the trait that defines the Royals a few years ago and now the Chiefs the last several seasons is resiliency, and our city is resilient. We've seen that now, especially with the year that we've all been having. I'm just curious, in your estimation, you're out there in the community every single day. What would a second straight Super Bowl championship mean to this city in your mind?
It means a few different things for us. First of all, after a year that has had its share of challenges, to me, it'll be so important that we're able to say, hey, we brought the community together again. We have this team, this squad of players that so embody Kansas City. Hard work, spirit, ambition. Folks that, sometimes have been counted out and are building part of this squad that I think is going to be one of the best in the NFL's history.
All right, good stuff there from the mayor. We've got a quick update here when we were airing that interview. It appears the plane has taken off. We can't see it anymore because it's snowing, but there you go. That's our current view. The plane has taken off, headed down for Tampa. Some better weather down there, I certainly hope. Shout out to John Matthews, one of our producers, for standing in the cold and the snow for an hour and a half to get these shots for you guys. Really appreciate you, John, for doing that. Definitely awesome stuff there. And we have cameras waiting on the ground for these guys to arrive, so we'll have all that content for you guys on Chiefs Social when the guys land in Tampa. Just about it for us, Sean, but first, I want your offensive and defensive keys to the game, your players that you're watching in this one.
Well, hey, Super Bowl is about playmakers making plays. Offensively, Clyde Edwards-Helaire. It's time for this young man to shine. When our offense has him, it goes in a whole different rate. It's hyper speed. It's ready to go, baby. And when I ask the fans to rewatch the Bills game from Week 6. Watch how our offense can go and motor 200-plus yards on the ground against a defense that was one of the top-ranked defense in the league. Watch it how we can play with Clyde Edwards-Helaire behind Pat Mahomes.
And your defensive player?
Defensively, hey, what's better to face an experienced quarterback than the unknown, the X factor, Ladarius Sneed. This young man has been a bright spot of our defense all season long, and when he's in there, our defense gets extra stingy. They get extra, they're making plays, interceptions, sacks. This guy's a jack of all trades, and he's unknown. Tom Brady won't even suspect it. So Ladarius Sneed on defense and Clyde Edwards-Helaire on offense.
All right, I'll give you mine now. I'm going to cheat and give you two guys on defense.
All right.
Juan Thornhill and Alex Okafor. Two guys who did not play in the Super Bowl last year due to injury. They've worked all year for this moment. This is their chance to play in the Super Bowl. And you think about facing Tom Brady, pressure and throwing the deep ball. Alex Okafor can create that pressure, and Juan Thornhill can pick him off. So I'm looking for both those guys to have some big plays in this one. I would be ecstatic for both of those guys, how hard they've worked to get back to this moment to make some big plays in this Super Bowl. Then offensively, Sammy Watkins. Of course, he's questionable. We don't know for sure if he's going to play, but if he does play, you think about the last time Tyreek Hill played against these guys, the Bucs don't want that to happen again. And I don't think there is a way to slow down Tyreek Hill, but the Bucs are going to put guys on him to try to stop him, which means Sammy Watkins could be in situations where he's one-on-one, and I like Sammy Watkins when he's one-on-one. So looking for Sammy Watkins, if he plays in this game, just like last year, to make a few big plays in this Super Bowl. All right, everybody, here we are. We're 24 hours away from the moment we have waited all year long for. It's time to run it back. Thanks so much for watching. Enjoy your Super Sunday. Let's get a victory.